and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new show.
Xavier used to be my boyfriend, then my fiance, and then my husband, so he's my ex-boyfriend.
We decided that we needed to spice this up. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to it. It is Living with My Ex, with me and my ex-girlfriend that is now my wife, Anka Hendricks. What's happening?
Hello, hello, hello. We're excited to be back and here with you guys and have an interesting discussion today. You picked today's discussion, actually. So I'm eager to see your views or hear your views about today's discussion.
I picked the discussion because it's something that's happening in the news at the moment, actually. It's obviously a conversation with the royals. And I can't understand why people are so obsessed with the royals, though. But before I get into it, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Please do hit the comment section and tell us what your thoughts are on the royals. Like, there's this crazy obsession with the royals where people literally follow every single little move they make. They follow what they're doing with their hands, what they touched, where they went, how their foot was. It's like mad obsession. And of course we know that there's a new add-on, or not add-on, like a new acquisition to the royal family, which is not that new anymore, but it's one of the biggest weddings in the past couple of years that we've ever seen. Obviously that is Harry and Meghan.
It's like almost 10 years too.
It's a while ago, yeah. It's a while ago, but it's obviously the most recent one. And that wedding was, I think it was one of the most viewed things in the world, right? I think it passed 1 billion views or something. Like half of the world was sitting there watching the actual wedding. And the whole wedding was such a long, drawn out situation where they go from here to there, to there, to there. And then there's a whole
They follow
thing.
tradition. Like they have 1,000 years, if not a very long standing tradition.
It's basically like a Disney fairy tale movie, literally.
But that's where it's based from, and I think that's why people are so enthralled with royalty, because when we were younger, that's all we got. We got these Disney princesses and, the royal wedding or happily ever after. There's always some prince coming to sweep you off your feet. So people really become captivated by, the royals. And over the years, that's still been the case. And I think most of the British monarchy, as opposed to, the French monarchy was dissolved, the Russian monarchy doesn't exist anymore. There's a lot of monarchies that they're seen as royals, but they're not really acknowledged as the British monarchy is acknowledged. Yeah,
so obviously that was met with different viewpoints, right? Mixed emotions, mixed feelings, mixed views. On the one side, a lot of people were a little bit unhappy because of who Prince Harry decided to marry. Because remember, now when it comes to the Queen and her family, in Afrikaans we have a saying called die blinkant boer, right? Which means you always try and keep the shiny side on top, which means you always try to make sure that
everything
the way people
well.
Perceive you and the way people look at you always has this flair to it and this energy to it. And then really what's actually happening behind the scenes and in the background, there might be some skeletons in your closet and nobody knows about it, but up in the front, you gotta, as the Afrikaans saying goes, you gotta keep the blinkant boer. You gotta keep the shiny side on the forefront, right?
But then we all have skeletons in the closet.
I think families are families, bro, and there's gonna be issues.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to these people that are always on the front lines, and when I say that, their lives are always amplified because they're always in the paparazzi, or people are always taking pictures of them. They're seen as above the average person because everyone always follows whatever they say. But a lot of the times we forget these are people with normal family dynamics.
I'm only human.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, these are just normal human beings. They are normal people, and they go through life like normal people. But here's the challenge, right? So some people felt like, why did Harry marry someone like Meghan? Why did he go and take? And there were various reasons, right? Outside of the obvious reason that she wasn't 100% white, because remember, this family is basically, this family is the epitome of colonialism, literally, right? And it got so bad to the point, I think you were telling me, to the point where they wanted to keep the bloodline or the
crown
race
within the
line
family.
so pure that they'll even go as far as to commit incest to just
Yeah.
try and make sure
So
that it stays within the family.
If you go back into the history of the monarchy, like really far back, they did commit incest, but not to the extent of brother with brother. I think it was more to the extent cousins,
extended cousins,
yeah,
that kind of thing.
like that, because they wanted to keep the crown within the family, and also they believed in having a pure bloodline, which obviously had other side effects like diseases that was hereditary and all of that. But that's way back into the history, if you really look back into the history. And then later on, obviously, with the advent of modernization and all of that, things started to change up a little bit. But certain traditions still stayed in place. Like, it usually had to, when royals got married, they had to get married to someone of royal descent, or at least of noble descent.
So that was one of the big obvious ones, the fact that she wasn't 100% white. She's mixed, right?
Yeah, she's biracial.
Yeah, she's biracial. So that's fine. But there wasn't necessarily an issue about that. A lot of people were like, "Hey, that's nice. There's a little bit of flavor in the proverbial White House."
I think as much as there was backlash in British tabloids itself, they did come out and also say they were also ones that came out and said, "Oh, it's such a breath of fresh air, that there's a bit of new scenery."
A bit of flavor. So that was the thing, right? One of the big things that popped out was her background in the history, and of course, you know that the whole point
Let's
of our
pause
show.
there for a while.
Yeah, the whole point of our show is we speak about marriages, we speak about relationships, we speak about what's happening, and we obviously always try to make sure that it's relatable to what we're going through on a day-to-day basis. And one of the big issues were, number one, she was a divorcee, right? Which means she was married before.
Yeah.
Number two, there was a whole family drama with her and her father. Number
Whom
three,
she disowned.
Yeah, she disowned. Number three, it was a whole story that her father came out with. He doctored pictures and a whole story that happened there. Outside of that, when it was the wedding, she literally decided she doesn't want any other family member there besides her mother.
Which was actually a thing when the wedding took place, because I know that when they wrote about it, it was obviously when we watched it, that was the one thing that really, what is opvallend in Engels?
Obvious. Or
Yeah, not
like
obvious.
stood out.
Yeah, stood out. It stood out that her mother it was only her mother there, and her mother was very secluded, and it kind of was like, no, she was kind of like on the outskirts, but it turned out this was really her wishes. She actually just wanted her mother there. That was how it was set up, and it looked like, no, it's the family, it's the royal family that now excluded her family.
So here's the thing, and so now basically what ends up happening is, for me personally, if I was looking for someone to spend my life with, there's a lot to be said about red flags there.
Yeah. I think
I'm saying for me personally.
Okay, so you say what your red flags are, and then I'll just chorus off into what I see the red flags concerning that is, because when we speak about these topics, it's really what can we take, because a lot of people just follow people that are celebrities. A lot of us just go out and say, "Oh, I want my Prince Charming," and by all means, he was a Prince Charming, because
Charming.
I think he was charming.
Okay.
Because
he's a prince.
He's a prince, but he went out of his way to actually make her feel loved. And I think as we go along and speak about this, we'll see how that played out for him. And even if you have to go look at, and I know it's a lot of people that like to reach and, the TikToks and all of that, and even the tabloids, but you really see aspects where he really made her want to feel a part of something. We don't know what their private conversations were. We don't. We only know what was displayed in public. But I think he did go out of his way to make her feel loved. So I would say charming, yes.
I wouldn't necessarily say he's the best looking gent in the world.
But that doesn't equate to being charming.
No. I'm not talking about charm. I'm just talking about looks altogether.
He's just, but
he's a ginger, obviously. But
what does that have to do with anything?
No, nothing. But I'm just saying he's not to me. He's not necessarily that guy, man. He doesn't give off that.
I would be worried if you were to think he's a charm, he's a good-looking kid, because then I'd be asking questions.
Looks are objective, right? but there's a particular look that gives that like that confidence, that swag, that energy, that
The man's a
vibe.
prince. He doesn't need nothing else.
So what, he can just look there with his red bar and his blazikie. It's
yes.
like,
He's a prince.
"Ay, my broer,
I'm
start
just
to trim
saying.
or something, at least mak plan da.
I'm just saying. Some men don't
Go
need
to the
extras.
gym at least.
Some men don't
Look a
need
bit like
extras. And what I say by that is because society has depicted of what is seen to be attractive. I think it was last year somewhere we had a show and we were speaking about, there's no such thing as an ugly billionaire. So I'm just saying, he doesn't need
But
looks.
here's the truth, right? There is something to be said about someone being attractive or not. That's the thing. Especially amongst women and even amongst gents. If somebody walks in that's attractive, the chances that they're going to get more attention than the person that is not as attractive, it's a thing. Like if you have someone walking in here, right, that's a good looking guy, whatever, before he even says anything, girls will be like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And then later on when he talks and he sounds dumb,
Okay,
it's like,
so
that all looks nice for nothing.
In Harry's former glory, when he was still like part of the whole monarchy, and he was still performing his royal duties, and all of that, if he walked into a room amongst good-looking men, regardless of the fact that say Harkies nie weer daar is daarbo nie, he would have garnered all the attention of the women just because
Because of who he is.
That's it. Because that is what society depicts. It's status. And society, when it comes to status and classes, is very vain. And it's not something that disappeared over time or eased up over time. It's actually still very superficial.
Which brings me to the point where and I'm gonna ask you this, right? Where if that is truly the case, is it that some mediocre C-list actress sees the opportunity that, I can get married to like an actual real life prince?
Nah, I ain't saying, but they are saying.
Okay, let me just say what I'm really thinking. It's giving gold digger for me.
No, I ain't saying.
It's giving gold digger vibes for me, right? It's giving like, here's the opportunity of a lifetime here. And I could very well be wrong.
Maybe
it could
she
be a
was
situation
smitten.
of like, I am actually in love with the guy.
Maybe she was smitten, but remember, being smitten with someone in the beginning and the novelty of meeting someone, and especially a prince or someone like that, doesn't negate your character.
Okay, can I ask this? How much of it had to do with the fact that he's a real life prince?
What?
She
let
me
texted
ask
her
this
friends
question.
and said she met a prince.
Is there a percentage, and this is an open-ended question.
I would do that. I would, if I met you and you were some prince of some monarchy, I would say, I met a prince, because I met a prince. I legit met a prince. I don't think someone can be faulted on saying that because it's the truth. She did meet a prince.
So this is an open-ended question, right? The question is does his princeness have anything to
Royalty.
Does his royalty have anything to do with the fact that she actually was attracted to him? If he was just a normal white guy walking around there somewhere that wasn't Prince Harry, would she have still been attracted to him?
I think she would, because I think she was attracted to a co-star as well that she acted with in Suits. I do think so. I think she would have if it was like a normal celebrity status type guy.
Okay, so
when I say normal celebrity status kind of guy, like those two, they don't go into one sentence, but I mean like not on royal level of that sort. I mean, and even if you have to look into Prince Harry's life, when he used to come here in South Africa, Cape Town, and have a party tussen die girls hier, and they went insane. Why? Because he's Prince Harry.
So you would concede that does play a role, the fact that
Yes,
that
I did
because
say
he's
that.
Prince,
I did
he
say that.
gets a
There's
different kind of attention.
Yes.
So here's the question that I would ask: do you think her expectations came short?
Yes, it was not met. And here's the thing, and we need to go back to when you said, when we spoke about the whole background thing first. I think us as women, we have, now remember this, we dream about our wedding day from when we were young. We were playing with dolls and everything, and now you meet a real life prince. You don't really, and especially if you're not well versed with culture, with a certain type of culture, because remember, she comes from America, which is very liberal, and you speak your truth and all of that kind of stuff. She comes from a different world where he grew up in a very rigid world, which was riddled with tradition, and I'm talking about age-old traditions that was passed down from generation to generation. I mean, all the little trivial stuff, they have certain etiquette, royal protocol that was followed. He grew up in that world. And now, where were we going with this? Where were we? I feel like you like threw me off. But now she comes, so now there's this expectation. And remember, when we were growing up, we were bombarded with like Disney princess movies from Disney and all of that. Now you meet a real life prince, so you have these accolades, because he lived in a palace, he had a title, a royal title. Now you meet this person which used to be unreachable, which used to be a place where you couldn't really, like, that was just in a fairy tale world. Now she actually comes face to face with a real life fairy tale. But there's still the reality of the situation, because we still live in the 21st century. So now she's brought into that culture, which is not her own, first of all. So she doesn't understand it. It's a different language they speak. And now she thought it was maybe just be everyone waiting at your feet, and yes, your majesty, no, your majesty. And I'm sure she had all these ideas and ideologies in her thought life. And now she is met with reality, and she now has to actually deal with a person. And which begs the question, was she in love with him as a person, or was she in love with what he could have offered her? That's the question that I'm asking, because of these ideas that and us as women, we dream, and we dream big. We dream, oh, when he does this, my foot should lift and my toes should curl, or we must propose here. We think like that. And I think the longer you are on earth and the more you live life, maybe you come back down to reality. But when you're met with a real life prince, what would your thought life be? So I do think that she had these big ideas, and it wasn't met when she was met with reality.
So she comes into the family. Do you know of any circumstances, situations, of real life situations where somebody meets a family?
You're going to make me mention names, and I shouldn't be mentioning names. But yes, I can mention a few people that have met people, and because they've got these ideas, and I think it has to do with ignorance. I think it has to do with the way what you're exposed to, really. And then when you have these ideas, and you meet certain people, and you see certain things, and you're like, oh, this is my life. I want to see. And I say that because I once was that naive girl. So when I met you initially, and I was here for a week, and we started talking, and we're like, okay, fine, if this is going to be it, those were the conversations we had, because you didn't want to do long distance. We had literally just met. We had spoken for like little less, like on and off for 2 years. And now I'm here. Now remember, this is new. I come from Namibia, which our total population is 3 million for the entire country. Right? So now I come to Joburg. That is the commute of people going to work on a daily basis. That's not the population of Joburg. Do you get what I'm saying? So now I'm here, and I'm exposed to a different life. And I remember the one time you asked me, we were still driving down Xavier. Is that Xavier Boulevard there? Robertsham, like you're going to where that bathroom bazaar is. And we were on that road because we were doing, I think, shopping for factory or whatever. And you asked me, do you think you could live here? And I was like, yes, I can. Because now remember, I have not been exposed to the dangers of Joburg, the fact that I'm going to have to function on my own, the fact that I'm going to have to travel and navigate the space on my own, because I'm not going to have you with me constantly. So I've got this whole idea, yes, and I'm thinking, no, everything will be sorted. We're making promises, we're in love, and all that type of things. And then when we got married and hit with reality, I had no job. That first year I had no phone, we didn't have Wi-Fi. Now we had to get to know each other for real. Now you get to the reality, you're like, oh, I didn't sign up for this one. So what I'm saying is, and now I see, Joburg is actually very scary. Joburg actually has a lot of crime. I was even scared to just walk over the road by myself because your people get robbed here all the time. So now the reality starts setting in. Now you're starting to rethink your choices because you were introduced to something. Because remember, this is an introduction, but that's all you're seeing at first. You must first know the backstory of something. You must first have lived it. Then 2 years down the line, I'm struggling to adjust the fast-paced life. I mean, I used to fall asleep from Suideroord, from Suideroord to Eldos, which is a 14-kilometer drive. I used to fall asleep because it was too far. So I had these ideas and all of that. So I'm saying, and that is just me in my normalcy, in our mediocre lifestyles that we have. So can you imagine what it would have been for her on that royal platform?
Sure. Okay, you said a bunch.
Yeah, you let me talk. No one said don't let me talk.
So, outside of that, there's also the cultural differences, right? And not only the cultural differences as it pertains to.
But before we get to the cultural differences, we must still speak to the fact of the background issue, that when you said she came in from a different background despite cultural differerences, and we never touched on that.
So, which part in particular, as far as background?
So we spoke about the fact that she's a divorcee, and then she had issues with her father, whom she had then abandoned, and then coming into a marriage. And remember...
So she's coming in with baggage.
She's coming in with baggage. Not to say that he's this perfect man that had everything. Because remember, when it comes to the royals, they have their own scandals, but it's always
covered up.
Covered up.
And also he lost his mother at a young age, which is also very, very public. The whole world knew when his mother died, Princess Diana. And then, of course... the whole world knew this whole story also about the father, kind of also, that the whole way that played out was also very scandalous. The fact that the new chick came in, and then the conspiracy said that they actually killed Diana. It was, the whole thing was planned and plotted. And, there's a bunch of conspiracies regarding that. And I mean, some people can make a case for that. And some people can say, no, it was an accident. And, there's a lot going on as far as that is concerned. And how they treated Diana. So there's a bunch of also baggage that he comes with as well.
Yeah. So if you have to go far back into the British monarchy history and how rigid they were when it came to being pure, being a certain way, and if you are married because marriage is ordained by God. They were very rigid back in the day with that, and it was very much instituted by the church, by the Catholic Church, and they were basically run by those principles. So moving along, coming to the 21st century, a lot of that was sort of like not thrown out the door, but was sidestepped, like Harry having his frivolous outings here in different countries, Cape Town specifically, and a lot of that his grandmother basically she tried to cover up a lot of that, and she sent him to the army and all of that. So he didn't come without baggage, because remember, also in the royal sphere, they don't do well with emotional stuff, because they have to be strong, because they're leading a nation. That's basically the notion. So it was a matter of not, you can cry and we'll do counseling or whatever. Maybe they do counseling, I don't know. But back in the day, there wasn't such a thing. You had to get over it. Sorrows. If someone dies, and that's it.
So there's an underlying challenge with race, which is not a big challenge between the two of them. So that's fine. And in fact, that's actually not a big challenge. There was a time it was going to look like it was going to be something, but it wasn't really. There's an underlying issue of baggage with the whole, I don't want anyone at my wedding, which is giving a bunch of red flags to me also personally.
Oh, that is a red flag.
And then there's the underlying issue of different cultures altogether. Because now the British culture is very...
Sorry, but in what way is that a red flag?
What, the fact that you don't want people at your wedding?
Yes.
It just gives off this energy of what kind of person, if you and I are getting married and you'd come and say, I don't want anyone at my wedding. Why?
Why are you isolating yourself?
Why not? Yeah, because me and my father are not around the same. And me and my mother. okay, but this is supposed to be a moment. This is supposed to be so you don't have any family. Why are you so disconnected from the fact that you're so disconnected from everyone? Is to me in and of itself a red flag. It's like
ask
so you
questions.
can't maintain relationships. You can't maintain healthy conversations with people. You can't. It says a lot about your psyche, and it says a lot about how you move
Yeah,
and
your
how you
character.
operate and your character. And there's people that also came out and said she was a bit tricky to work with on suits or whatever. That's neither here nor there. But I'm saying more so what we can see, what we saw with our own eyes, the fact that you want to tell me you don't have a good relationship with any of your family. How does that work? That to me is a red flag.
And here's the thing, and we've said this before, that watch how the person that you're interested in treats their family. Because believe you me, you will become the victim of the same treatment.
And yes, and so that's the thing. And then obviously afterwards it came out that there's a bit of tension in the marriage, whatever, which is normal. A lot of times people have tension in their marriage. But now, remember, this is a marriage conversation. This podcast we always share is a marriage conversation, right? So that's why we decided to kind of zoom in on this whole conversation happening in the mainstream at the moment with actually them trying to come back into the royal family after leaving the royal family, which is where I'm going next, is that the issue of culture. She comes from an American culture. He comes from a British culture. British people are are not as flamboyant and loud and extravagant as the American culture is. The American culture is very loud. It's very in your face. It's very let's go get it done. It's very and I'm saying this from being a well-traveled individual myself, and also living in America for 6 months, and you live there as well. I'm not sucking this from my thumb. I'm also saying this from spending a lot of time in London, in and of itself, in the UK, in and of itself. And having family that lives family friend that lives in the UK himself, and that is married to a British woman, and I can tell you that the Europeans don't necessarily look fondly on the Americans, and one of the big things is because of that kind of flamboyance and kind of loud.
I don't think it's more the flamboyance. I think it's more the sense of entitlement. Like
and there's a sense of entitlement. And even when I've traveled before. Well, I've traveled many times, but I've been on a plane before where someone pulled that I'm an American card.
I'll never forget.
I was like, hey, bro.
I'll never forget. I think it was the group we went in 2014. We went, and I think we were flying Emirates. I'm not sure if we were flying Emirates or Qatar. And we were on the plane, and there was this guy that I don't know what he did, but he didn't sound American at all. And the hostess was trying to help him, and he spilled something, whatever. And she was trying to help him, or say, unfortunately, you can't do with that. And then what he basically was saying, I'm an American citizen. You can't treat me this way. But she wasn't being difficult or anything with him, but he felt so entitled to say, I'm an American citizen.
So America in and of itself comes with that sense of entitlement, comes with that sense of we are the world leaders, so wherever we go, people must take us seriously. That has since changed.
Yeah.
I remember growing up where people, if you ask where do you want to go for holiday, Disneyland, America, I want to go see New York. That is not the case anymore.
Yeah,
people would rather go to Dubai now. People would rather go to the east, actually. People would rather go to, what's that place called in Bali?
Yeah.
People will go to like Bali. People will go to like
Indonesia and those
Dubai.
places. Yeah.
People will go to
Abu Dhabi.
And those places,
You know,
people will rather go to the Emirates or to Europe, stuff like that. But that seat that America once had has been tainted big time.
I saw this in a movie, and
the Americans know it, and that's one of the things Trump is actually running on now. The fact that our stand in popular culture has come down. Like, people don't take us as seriously as they would have taken us in the 2000s, right? 2001, 2005, around that time, which is true. But remember, still the thought process is like, I'm an American, if I this and I that. And he's coming from a family where, hey, bruh, if something happens, you stay, you zip, you keep quiet, you you cover up for your family, you this,
Yeah,
you
you
that.
protect your family
She
at all
comes from a
costs.
culture of, oh, why must we keep quiet? Me Too movement. It's.
But I feel this way, and I'm gonna
It's
speak
my
my
feeling.
truth.
This is my truth, and this. So now that is a massive clash, and that is the cause of where they ended. That's the main cause of how they ended up where they ended up with the whole Oprah Winfrey interview, with the whole with him writing his book, with her starting a podcast. The whole thing was geared around making the monarchy look bad,
Which is
which is the monarchy is like, bruh, yeah, we cover up for each other, yeah, we keep quiet. In America, it's all about the tabloids, it's all about the clickbait, it's all about you're gonna say something shocking to get views and to get likes and to get comments. And so
the
she
shock
comes from a
factor.
culture of shock factor. Come, we're gonna pimp now, we're gonna take out the files now, we're gonna take out people's files. And he comes from a culture of, yeah, bro, where I come from, we don't pull people's files.
What's interesting, I don't know about the later interviews or even much about the book, but if you have to go look about the earlier interviews, especially like the Oprah Winfrey one and all of that, she does most of the talking. She even speaks on his behalf by saying, there was a conversation about, how the color of their baby and all of that. But those weren't conversations had with her.
And then Oprah asks, oh, did they say that to you?
Yeah.
She's like, no, they said it to Harry.
Yeah, so why not give him the platform to say it if it was something
But you
that he
can
would
also
love to
see
share.
how uncomfortable he also is.
Yes.
He's like, Ish.
Like in quite a few of the
bruh,
things,
this is not, we don't move like this.
in quite a few of the things that she says and where she mocks the tradition. Now you got to understand where he comes from. He was born into that, so he knows nothing different. That is normal to
And
him.
remember, that's his family.
It's his
It's
family.
his actual brother and his father.
Yes,
it's
his
people.
family. And now she comes open, and you can see his face of discomfort, like he doesn't know how to, but he's now taught that he must, be there for his wife, he must do that. But at the same time, he's fighting with the fact that, I must also protect.
But is that giving narcissistic traits to say that I'm going to isolate you from your family? We're going to you better leave Buckingham Palace or else we're going to move to America, to where I'm from.
Look,
we're going to do this and this. Because from where I'm seated, I could be wrong, and this is just our opinions, right? And we just, just talking about it, right? It could be it's neither here nor there. But where I'm seated, Harry comes across as someone that's like kind of being pulled around by the nose. He comes across as someone that's not standing his ground. He comes across as someone that's not saying, hey, listen, yeah, we're going here, we're doing this, we're going there, we're doing that. He's really coming across as, yes, baby, okay, where we going, baby, okay, let's move in here, baby. And she comes across as, look here, you're going to use your stardom, you're going to use who you are, and we're going to get this done because you are the prince.
It's indicative of
Because
the
I
fact
can feel like there's the conversation in the bedroom, like, hey, you the prince, you must tell the people this. And he's like, hey, baby, but that's not how we move. We don't use our prince. And the reason I'm saying that is because the new website that was meant for the it's called Archie after their son, that was meant for their philanthropy and stuff. They've now called it Duke and Duchess.
no, they called it Sussex.com.
Of Sussex, right? And so and so
It
some of the
speaks to his
critics
titles,
of the critics are like, oh, now you want to own up to your title because you are. So it's giving us like, I want my independence, I want to do me, I want to speak my truth, but at the same time,
Just
if I walk away from my prince, from my royalty, I lose out on the
now
deal.
remember, they've never had, not her specifically, but she knows what it is to work. Or have to struggle or whatever. He doesn't. He's never lived that life. He's never a day in his life not
But he
had.
literally grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth.
You mean
Quite
a
literally.
golden spoon in his mouth.
Quite literally. That saying
he's never had a lamp.
literally comes from the monarchy.
Yeah. So basically, he doesn't understand any of that, and it seems to me like a story that has happened so many times when a guy is so enthralled with a girl or whatever, he gives up a lot, and then later on she just leaves him high and dry, and now he's lost everything. Now he must go back crawling to, because he's never lived without it, so he doesn't understand really what he's giving up, because he doesn't know the other side. He only knows one side, whereas she knows both sides now. The only thing is coming from a wife, coming from someone who is married and understanding family dynamics. No family is perfect. Whether you are royal, whether you are a celebrity, whether you are just the common person walking around, no one's family is perfect. There are some family dynamics. There's always some rivalry somewhere. But here's where the thing comes in. And as much as we always say that you have to create your own culture, and even amidst that, where they have this rigid sort of like culture or rules for the monarchy and protocol, you can still create your own culture. But they didn't do that because she only understands one culture. If it must be the way I want it to be. So coming from a wife, coming from someone who is married and married into someone else, you can give your opinion coming into my family. It's important that I know that there's this notion that says, yeah, but I married him, I didn't marry his family. That is a myth. It is a myth. You marry his family because the reality is it is his family. So even if something happens between me and one of his family members or whatever, it is my duty as a wife to, yes, if I'm wronged or whatever, we need to address it at some point or whatever. But it shouldn't be to the point where I expect him to disown his family, because it's wrong. When it comes to family functions, when it comes to certain things, they need to still have a bond, because guess what? When things become things, and what I mean is when things start to go awry, guess who's going to have to be there? Your family. His family has to be there to support him, because guess what's happening now? Now
That's
things
exactly
are
what's
going
happening
awry.
now. Netflix is complaining about the fact that the show didn't even hit the top 100.
So they're pulling the plug.
Spotify is pulling the plug on her podcast. They're now realizing that we're not as popular as we used to be. People are not as interested, because remember that arch or that curve went like whoop. Everyone, like the wedding, the this, the that, Meghan and this and that. And then she goes and lies about the whole thing that paparazzi was chasing them and were driving 200 kilometers an hour in New York. And anyone who's ever been to New York knows, bro, that's bumper to bumper traffic 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can't even drive over 80 kilometers walking. Bro, walking in New York is cheaper than driving. You stand a better chance. There was one night I had to run back to the station to catch a train back to New Jersey from New York. And I stood a better chance running those blocks back to Park Station to Central Park than to catch a cab or to try and get, because the traffic is bumper to bumper. It's even in the movies you'll see someone jump out of a taxi and end up running just because you can't drive. So then people came out like, nah man, you're inflating stories, and so it added to the fact that we don't like those people. They're giving fame hunger, clout hunger, like we just want.
If you have to look at the culture that she's used to, and that's most of the American culture, they have a reality TV show kind of thing, and I think the Kardashians really encapsulate the whole meaning of that reality show kind of vibe, where they have to create a scandal or something or some dramatic story to garner the people's attention and to say, okay, fine, or the likes or to become invested in something. And based on that, they then become sort of like not icons, but sort of like, the go-to. So Netflix would want to invest because they know that that's where the attention of the people is. So they want to make the buck off of that. So the shock factor and reality TV kind of vibe is really the culture that she comes from. So you can't really blame her for that. And I think a lot of the times they do that without even realizing they're doing it. But now, his culture is different. They have very private, secluded lives. And then when they do come out, it's always to do humanitarian work. It's always to come and greet the people or go to an orphanage or stuff like that. They always put the best foot forward, because that's basically the culture he comes from. So you can sort of like see that kind of like between the two of them as you go along. If you follow the tabloids, if you follow the the stories or the people who give the updates, because there's really people that follow them to the T, like really to the last. But yeah.
So yeah, man. But I guess there's things to be learned, and it also just shows that these are normal people. They're normal human beings with normal challenges. And as much as they have all this money and all this fame, back at the ranch in the bedroom, as Mariciela, is the same conversations that us mortals have in our rooms.
But here's the thing: I was listening to some piece of a podcast yesterday where this woman was speaking, and I've said this multiple times. Us as women, we are manipulative by nature, right? It's just how we are born, and some of us know how to navigate that better than others, and some of us just really are toxic at our manipulative nature. So, and what she basically said was that a woman's innate drive or whatever is when she can manipulate a man, right? So if you are able to provide and do all of that things, and I can manipulate you, I won't have much respect for you. Why? Because I can walk all of you and get what I want. Why must I respect you? But if you can provide all of that and I cannot manipulate you, I will then have respect for you, right? And he's allowed her to manipulate him over time, not negating that he might have had his own things, his own issues or whatever, not negating that, but he literally gave up, walked away from his family. He gave up his position in his family that is like top tier in the world. Do you get what I'm saying? What drives a man to do that?
But here's the other danger also that I think people don't take into account, right? There's these bursts of trends that happens right in the world, where for a month this is a big trend, and then for another month that's a big trend, and for 1 month that's a big trend, and now you jump on this trend because you want to be, because you're jumping on it for clout, you're jumping on it because you want to be relevant, you're jumping on it. So here's the thing, when it comes to the trend of the Me Too movement, some people were capitalizing on it. They were like, yeah, I'm going to say, oh, so I was molested.
This is my truth.
I also want money out of the deal. Then people were hopping on that trend, and people were getting sued, and people were losing their jobs. And then later on, it came out that there's that one particular story where the guy lost his whole scholarship and then afterwards the girl said no, they were just joking. After the guy already lost his scholarship, he lost his whole. They demonstrated him from the college. They asked him to leave and all that, and so that was a trend which caused damage in someone's life, because people were using the trend to jump
and
on.
It couldn't be repaired.
Then it was the whole BLM trend where people were just basically doing things that now had nothing to do with the original, the reason that the thing was started in the first place. It started for equality, it started for police brutality, it started for all those things, which are all noble causes. But then later on, it started becoming something completely different, where it turns out that the two lesbian women that started it ended up running away with all that money, ended up being very scaly and sketchy about how they dealt with the money, and it just became like $1 million industry where they ran away with the things. Then it's the whole carbon footprint thing of like, oh, you must be careful, you must drive an electric car, you must do this, you must do that. And then the question then comes up, but you guys are flying private jets, you guys are buying houses at the beach and telling us that the sea level is rising, you guys are doing X, Y, and Z. And now the question starts becoming, are you just saying certain things because it's a trend at the moment? And the whole my truth, and the Black Lives Matter. So she jumped on the trend of, yeah, they're racist, when it was time for Black Lives Matter. She jumped on the trend where it was a matter of, I'm being treated funny, and his mental health, and my mental health, because remember there was a time when that whole mental health conversation
was really
like a whole trend, but every time you switched on TikTok, mental health. Anytime you switch, you flip through the videos on Instagram, mental health. And so there's like a time where certain trends become like the focus point of society. And she thought, now I'm going to capitalize on these trends. I'm going to jump onto the Oprah Winfrey show. I'm going to garner sympathy for mental health issues. I'm going to garner sympathy for racism. I'm going to garner sympathy. And unfortunately, the whole thing just backfired because people saw straight through it. People were like,
I think there is a turn in society in general when we speak about, there was a time when people were jumping on the trends or whatever. But people see now, people don't vibe with the whole slander thing anymore. They don't vibe with the whole negative thing anymore and have your dirty laundry aired out.
Or even with the blaming mental health because you're just lazy, or because you didn't want to do it, or because you didn't have lust to do it.
It's an easy
now you left me hanging and then you cry mental health.
Okay, but yeah, you cry mental health. But going back to marriage in general and looking at where they are, and obviously with the tabloids reporting there is trouble, and you can see there's trouble in paradise and all of that. When it comes to marriage and you're getting married, and yes, you might have this prince and this knight in shining armor and all of that, you need to ask yourself the question as to why you want to get married to this person. Am I truly in love with the person I'm getting married to, or what they have to offer? Because when they don't have that to offer anymore, will you still be a happy person? And will you still be satisfied? Because remember, if it's not the person that satisfies you, nothing else will satisfy you. Because if you're not, okay, baby, I want to get married because I love you for A, B, and C, and this is who you are to me, and this is what you mean to me. But now it becomes a matter of, oh, you can provide for me. Yeah, we can have this status, we can have this and that and the other, and together we'll be a power couple. Your why becomes a very big factor when it comes to marriage. And marriage is something for us especially, and that is what we advocate for. I absolutely love being married. Does that mean it's easy? No. Does it mean we still have to work at it? Yes. In today's life, is it easy? Because everything is on social media and everything is reachable. Like, if you want to do something or you want to cheat, you can do it easily. But it's a matter of a choice. It's a matter of choice, especially in today's life. For us, there's no scapegoat. This is it. This is it. We have to be with one another and work things out. Even if I don't like you today, we need to figure this out. That's what marriage is. So if you are willing to stick, the only way you will be willing to stick through it with somebody like that is if you know why you love this person.
Guys, that's it from us today.
Are we done?
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for coming through. Thank you for everyone that's been showing love and support on our channel. Please don't forget to subscribe, please. I think on Living With My Ex, we are at the moment on 110 subs. It's not bad for a new channel.
Why, thank you.
And thank you guys so much for showing love and support on here. It's always really cool to see everyone jumping online and showing that support. But yeah, man, that's it from me today. Closing remarks on your side?
Everyone is human. Know that we all have our same issues. I know some people's are more amplified than others. That doesn't make it any different. We all have struggles, but we have to just, navigate our way in the most amicable way. And when we get married, know that you get married to his family.
That's correct. Ladies and gentlemen, that's it from us. Please do share, subscribe, like, and see you on the next one. Love you. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new show.
Xavier used to be my boyfriend, then my fiance, and then my husband, so he's my ex-boyfriend.
We decided that we needed to spice this up.